Hello, loves. It's been quite a while since I've done a full moon reading, I think. It might have even been the end of last year, maybe January. Um, Things have been weird, honestly. I kept kind of waiting for them to get less weird, and just don't think that's the flavor of this year. So I decided that even though things are not going according to plan with this recording, I'm going to do it anyway and just see how it turns out. So tonight, what is the date today? The 16th. So April 16th, it's a Saturday, and tonight the full moon is in Libra. And so we're looking at a lot of energy around fairness, morals. The tarot card associated is the Justice card. And that's a card that I am always spending time with because I feel like there's so many different layers to it. Essentially, it's around less than man-made law. It's more to do with our inner moral compass and, you know, karmic kind of things. Like, you know, if you shit all over enough people, you're going to get, you know, you break down on the side of the road, there's a greater chance it'll be someone who doesn't want to help you, that kind of thing. So it's, you know, the energy is there to support us as always, but it can sometimes feel a little bit unfair because the universe is kind of sorting out what is best for us right now. And, you know, we don't always know what's best for us. The things that we want, when we don't get them, sometimes we feel like there's been an injustice done. And, you know, if we lose someone in our life that we loved, you know, we're furious and we want to fix it. But if I can say anything about the energy right now is just try to trust. Just do your best to, or I invite you to try to trust if that feels okay for you. You know, the more we can kind of ground ourselves in what's happening and just try to, rather than thinking about like, why is this happening to me? Instead thinking, okay, what can I learn from this? Or what can I take forward from this? And so with that in mind, I'm going to look at something that we're going to let go of, something that we are going to kind of embrace, and then something to keep our eye on moving forward. And then we're going to do a meditation card. So this will be my readings I always do for the month. So from this full moon to the next full moon in about 4 weeks time. So and before I look at the cards, they're all face down. I like to look at one at a time because my brain gets overwhelmed with too much information. But to keep in mind for this next month that, you know, you're building foundations. There's a very foundational energy to this month and to Libra. And so, you know, as you're taking stock of things in your life, this is a great time during this full moon to really relinquish and let go of things. And, you know, without referring to that old statement about, you know, let something go, if it comes back to you, it's yours, is not what I mean. But I mean, be willing to let go of things that aren't necessarily working right now, because, you know, the universe has got your back. It's if a person or a situation or a job or whatever it is that you're really longing for is in your highest and best, it's going to happen. It's just the timing part that we have to learn to trust, and sometimes trust that what we want most isn't actually meant for us. So it's asking a lot of trust this month. So with that in mind, let's take a look. So something to release right now. Queen of Swords. And I'm using the Austera Tarot deck, which is I forgot to unreverse my camera, and I don't want to do it mid-recording because it might mess it up. Anyways, Queen of Swords is she's very logical, clear-minded, intelligent, kind of cool. Her words tend to be a bit sharp. She's all about boundaries. So as far as something to let go of, we never want to let go of. Maybe it's time to assess our boundaries. So not necessarily, like, definitely not let go of boundaries that are there for your safety and for you to be able to, you know, be in the world in your own way. But maybe it's a time that we all look at some of our boundaries that maybe have been outdated or need to be changed or need to shift a little bit. You know, as we heal, we have we put things in place to be able to do the best we can at that point in our life. So if you've been on a healing journey for a long time, think like 10 years ago. You may have had things that you were absolutely unable to talk about. You might have had places you were unable to go. You might have had, you know, certain types of media you just couldn't consume because it was not okay for you at that time. And then sometimes, as you know, after a while, we can tend to keep old boundaries in place, even when we've evolved past them. And sometimes that can cause some dissonance, or we might be closing ourselves off to things that we're actually very capable of handling and we have the capacity for now. So with the Queen of Swords, there's a couple different things it could mean. We never really want to let go of our logical mind, but we do want to also keep that in balance. So, you know, this might be suggesting that we've spent a lot of time ruminating and in our brains and, you know, the hamster wheel and what can I do about this, this, and this, and you know, this full moon is about trust. And so maybe it's time to kind of let go of that over planning, you know, our tired, overworked minds, and just kind of relax into our intuition and you know, listen to that quieter voice and put our brain chemistry, let it have a bit of a rest. So that could be it as well. So two main things: looking at our boundaries. Do we have boundaries in place that are hindering our progress at this point? And just making sure we're not spending too much time completely in our heads, and balancing that time with our heart, with our you know, practical nature, things like that. So, something to embrace. Oh, King of Wands, very nice. So that actually counters that other card really beautifully. Kings are, and as I always say, we're not looking at gender here, we're looking at active energy, sort of, as opposed to intuitive or receptive. This is active energy, very, very hot energy, very fiery. Kings they represent the furthest evolution in their suit. So with Wands, we're looking at fire, we're looking at things like passion, things, our will, things we care most about, things we get excited about. You know, it can be creativity, it can be our vocation, and the Kings are just a full embodiment of that, and often they're called to mentorship or to share that with others. So as far as what to embody, what is the thing that really lights you up? So it makes sense after the Queen of Swords, because we're letting go of this sort of really cerebral, or we're taking a break from too much cerebral time and really going into, you know, the things that really excite us, just letting ourselves be playful, letting ourselves be creative. And everybody, there's a whole spectrum there. And I always long for a word other than creative, because as soon as, you know, a lot of times the word creative is so weighted with what that's supposed to look like that I don't even care for it myself. But all that is having an idea and making it happen. And I find with Wands energy, one of the ways I've been working with it over the last few years is, yes, it can be a creative venture that has a product in mind. Absolutely. If you're a painter or like a media, sorry, a painter, I guess, and you have a gallery showing in a year, then you're gonna have an endpoint in mind. But I think the real magic in the Wands lies in really just playing and releasing without worrying about things, like with really just letting ourselves tap into, you know, play in a way that feels safe to us. And it can be sex if that's something you're interested in, whether it's by yourself or with others or with a partner. It can be exploration in that regard. But it's just basically opening up. So make sure you adapt that for however it looks for you. If you've been really closed off to creative processes and it feels very unsafe, then it might look as simple as a creative dinner, something a little bit different, or wearing a piece of jewelry that feels a bit bold for you. Like, you can take those comfortable steps, but really just try to let it in, however much you can. Let in that feeling of excitement. A lot of times when we're talking about Wands, I think about things that, like tarot, that I can start talking about and just go. Like, I get so excited. Or if you have a friend, or if you've connected with someone and you get on the topic of something and you're both going like chipmunks. It's that kind of energy. And so it can be really fun. And with letting go of like too much worry, it can have to do with, you know, we've been in a type of limbo for a long time. And every time we think that things are kind of wrapping up with the pandemic, we get another wave, or we get, or we have someone in our life that's very sensitive and that we can't expose them. There's going to be a lot of uncertainty. And I think that is our new normal. I've been pondering that for a while and what that looks like. But we are not built to be in survival mode for this long. We are herd animals. We're complicated, and even myself, who's a self-proclaimed hermit, I really don't ever get tired of my own company, but I also know for my mental health that I have to kind of step out of that sometimes. So I would say with that, just try to bring in a bit of levity and a bit of play. If you have a young person in your life, going to a playground and maybe going on the swings, just little things to kind of let a bit of joy in. And I think the most important piece for that is just not worrying about the end result. So whether that's finger painting, cooking, going thrift shopping and buying something kind of fun, I don't know, just play with it, see how that feels for you. With the king energy, you might find that there are people kind of that want to be a part of what you're doing. So yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say about that. So 2 court cards back to back. Next, we have something to keep our sights on, like something as we're kind of moving through this month to kind of keep one eye on. Okay, 10 of Pentacles. Nice. I love this. So I don't know if you can see it. The octopus has little reading glasses on. I just think it's so sweet. Often this card will be portrayed in decks with, an older person with, maybe their grandkids around. And it's just really a card of, we're looking at pentacles, so that's that sort of grounded energy that the Libra in this full moon will have. So it should kind of come around again. Like you'll start to feel a bit more grounded, or there'll be an invitation to feel more grounded. Oftentimes this card is associated with, financial security, but the way I read pentacles has more to do with what makes us feel safe. So, for myself, I'm not as worried about what I've got in my bank account, but if our food is getting low, that's when I start to panic. Like I really like to make sure I've got enough food on hand that if something comes up, I can feed my family and keep them safe. So for me, food security might be something that will feel plentiful and unchallenged going towards the end of the month. It can also be, when possible, gathering people around that feel like chosen family, that feel safe, that really nourish you. It can be pets, like, Gertie's under the blanket. Are you hiding? Having our, having our animals around us is absolutely Pentacles energy as well. Like if you've ever felt that, your nervous system's been activated and you're having trouble breathing and stuff, having an animal or another living creature can be a huge relief. So yeah, just finding, and it's 10s are the ending of a chapter. They're kind of as things are wrapping up. So it could be the end to something. You might be working on wrapping something up towards the end of the month. But it's a really positive card, and it's a card that suggests that there'll be that kind of energy where you feel like you can kind of let your guard down. Whatever it is that helps you feel safe will be available to you, whether that's finances, whether it's secure housing or secure living quarters. I don't know what word I'm looking for there. A place to reside safely and with protection from the elements, that kind of thing. And there's a wisdom in the 10 of Pentacles as well. I think that's all I wanted to say about that one, I believe. It's also, the thing with the 10 of Pentacles I say too is that it's kind of a card where you sit back and just enjoy. And there's this idea of success with this card, and it's another word I kind of bristle at because success to me is going to look, success looks different for everybody. So it really depends what matters most for you. And the 10 of Pentacles, I think, calls into question, like, what does that mean for you? Like, what does success, what would you like to achieve in your life, or where would you like to be so that you do feel successful? And for some of us, it's just, now that I'm getting past my mid-40s, speaking my truth and just not betraying myself when something matters, when I feel a boundary has been infringed on, or or something like that, I have that safety in myself where I'll either say it or I will remove myself from that situation. I don't betray myself in that same way. And in a way that's kind of, it took me my whole life to get here to that point where I don't betray myself to make other people comfortable. Or I try not to. So it can be that too. It can just be something that helps you to feel stable, secure, and successful in your own way. And I will work on a better word for that, but yeah. Meditation card. This is a sort of a theme for us to keep all of this in mind. It's kind of like a container for it. All right. It's going to be like that, is it? So 5 of Pentacles. This actually, all of this is, I'm hoping it clicks for you. This is all really making a lot of sense to me for sure. In the Pentacles, again, the 5 is kind of the opposite of 10 in a lot of ways. It's a disruption in our safety. And so it's kind of promising to know in advance that the 10 of Pentacles is how we're wrapping it up, because the 5 of Pentacles is an energy that will really, it can be really challenging because it does, in a way, threaten our safety. It can make us feel out of alignment. It can make us feel, the word I associate with 5 of Pentacles often, which is, different than a lot of other readers who look at this card as poverty. That's never been what that card means for me. For me, it's more a sense of being homesick, and it can be for somewhere that never existed. So sometimes this card comes up with family of origin stuff, if you've had to separate from family of origin for your safety and your mental health. In every deck, there's some form of this version of someone being out in the snow. In this deck, there's a serpent around her leg, but, oftentimes it's someone who has a broken leg and they're on crutches. And, the question is always, there's a nice warm building there. Why don't they go inside? And I think that's the reason why, to me, it has so much to do with that kind of family of origin thing, because not all of us can go back home. Not all of us have safety there. Not all of us can, we wouldn't be welcomed with open arms. There's a million reasons why that person might not be going into that building. In one of my shadow work courses, that's one of the things we explore too, is that, how the assumptions look from the outside. A lot of times when we are struggling, it can be financial for sure with this card. It's just, for me, not the theme. If we're struggling with housing, if we're struggling with our sense of self-worth, all of those things from the outside, judgments are usually plentiful. Like, why don't they just ... And so the thing to keep in mind is 5s are always necessary for us. All the cards in the tarot, the way I read, they're all necessary for us. But 5s, I like to remind myself of that because they're not particularly comfortable to move through. They usually take our nice solid 4s and kind of turn them over and make us look at things, and they break us out of our complacency. So they come in and they don't allow us to sit on our haunches too long. They come in and say, hey, you have to deal with this. So it's very much a productive kind of disruption, but it can be quite uncomfortable. So that might be a theme this month. Even just something I was thinking about earlier today is we've had a few sunny days in BC, which is kind of a miracle in itself. And you know how when the seasons change, when you've been in the lull of winter and then it starts getting sunny, and you kind of expect yourself to come out of your shell, and sometimes when we don't, it's like, what's wrong with me? Like, it's everyone else is out in their garden. So it can be that feeling of being outside. And there's a whole other wing I won't really get into, but another thing I consider with this card that I like to acknowledge because it's important is that this can also be systemic oppression or systemic othering, something I can't understand from my experience because I'm a white middle-aged woman, so I can't pretend to know what that's like, but for anyone who can relate to that, to being systemically oppressed or made to feel outside for something that's beyond their means, then it's important to think about that with this card too. It could be someone who's differently abled, anything like that. So that feeling of outside, it almost never in this card has to do with, it's not our fault, and it's often not anything we've done, but we're still left with, okay, what am I going to do with this now? I'm uncomfortable, I'm cold, I can't get my bearings. And so sometimes it's just looking at like, what am I, just like I mentioned before, like, what am I meant to learn from this? What is this teaching me right now? And just really trying to observe it, being like, oh, this really sucks, and I'm going to stay with it. And um, I full transparency, I'm kind of leaving behind some old coping mechanisms that kind of came up about shortly into COVID. Some old things that used to make me feel safe that aren't in my best interest. So I what is it? Over a month ago anyways, I really just, I didn't allow myself to indulge, and so I'm feeling, everything feels quite raw. So this resonates with me. And a lot of times this card will come up when we've disrupted our safety, even if we've done it in our best interest, even if we know we need to make this happen. It can also come up that way. So it can be something we've done, it can be external, it can be just a turn of fate. But so there's this underlying kind of theme here where we might not know where to put ourselves. So remember that feeling of homelessness for a place that might not exist, like a place where we are fully, ideally we'd be embraced, and people would love all of our weird synchronicities and stuff like that, but that's hard to find. So just know you're not alone with that, and that your weirdness and your uniqueness is actually what makes you a huge gift for the right people. So I think that's it. That's kind of the overall theme. There's no major arcana cards, so these will likely be kind of more a little more manageable. We'll have a little bit more control over how we experience these different energies, as opposed to kind of having it land in our life. But I hope that was helpful. I feel a bit trying to get back into speaking to a camera, which has always been a bit of a challenge for me, but I hope that helps. I hope that you're doing well. I hope that you're able to kind of move into spring in the most comfortable way possible for you, and that you're able to tap into that King of Wands energy, because it could be really exciting. All right, I'm gonna say goodbye and make some tea and enjoy this full moon. So thank you for being here, and for your patience as I kind of got back into this. All right, happy full moon. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.